Let me put another point to you and just see if this adds to the conversation. I've been wrestling with something for quite some time now. The idea that if we do have hyper-Bitcoinization, how many people on this planet could realistically be self-sovereign on the base chain? Like, what is the actual number?
Right now, I mean,
can it
in the tens of millions?
Tens of millions, right?
Right.
So with global hyper-Bitcoinization, if it happens, if it becomes true global money,
probably more than that, but hundreds of millions.
We're not going to have 8 billion people on the base chain.
In the current state, probably not, but there are proposals out there to create sort of partial ownership of an individual UTXO, which would enable that. But that's something that's not here yet. And that's the way Bitcoin's scaled. And in the past, as you reach these limits, the fees go berserk. The network either slows down or something happens. And then people are like, all right, here's where the pain point is. How are we going to solve this? And it's not until you reach those points until these things materialize.
And then add another point to this. When I made any of my documentaries in places under high inflation, particularly recently in Lebanon, that people have no disposable income for Bitcoin. And you get some people come back and say, yeah, but what if it's even $1 a month? Like, they just don't have a can of Coke they normally have or a beer, and they just buy just $1 of Bitcoin. That's going to help them. It's like, okay, cool. So how are they buying that $1 of Bitcoin? Because they're probably not buying it on the base chain. If they are, they're probably not going to be holding their own keys. They'll leave it on an exchange. And so my question really is can everyone be truly self-sovereign with Bitcoin in the way it is? And if they're not, then what are the answers to that? And are we going to end up building bank-like multi-institution custody solutions, and therefore we can have a bunch of those around the world, and they're going to be the settlement. They're going to be settling with each other, like banks do at the moment.
An idea that's been in my head that's not fully flushed out is that pools actually become banks, and the ability to control and move blocks, and potentially in conjunction with lightning channels or side chains or whatever it might be, the pool becomes effectively the most incentivized market participant to be trusted with your settlement, where they have a check and balance naturally, where if the pool starts messing around, they'll lose their users, their hash rate becomes less valuable, the layer 2 revenues become less valuable, and there's so much just kind of overlapping incentive alignment there, where the pool as the bank it's a trusted relationship, but it's kind of the same trust that we have right now with the layer 1, where we trust the miner to be economically rational and pursue profit maximization with a long-term incentive timeline. Miners are making 2, 3, 4 year Bitcoin denominated investments. And so they have the longest duration, least liquid Bitcoin position of any participant, a world where they become more intimately involved in financial services. It's something that...
So back, like you were saying, is the base chain the central bank, and these custody solutions are banks themselves. They're all settling with each other, but these users could be going on and creating accounts, and they can be buying Bitcoin on it, but really they're not self-sovereign. They don't own a UTXO.
Right.
Not your keys, not your Bitcoin is obviously a very important narrative for Bitcoin, but ultimately it will die as a narrative.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Not for everybody, but this goes back to, what you just described is essentially a free banking system built on Bitcoin, which is something that Hal Finney talked about in December of 2010 on bitcointalk.org. And I think comparing that to the incumbent system that we're trying to get away from, while in its current state, which is arguably not going to be the state into perpetuity, where not everybody on Earth is going to be able to own a UTXO. Maybe we get something where you have partial ownership of a UTXO and you do have a key that grants you access to that, but let's run with the assumption that doesn't happen. This free banking system that can emerge, where you have pools of Bitcoin managed by different actors, different private actors throughout the global economy. Maybe they're running a Fedi Mint or something like that, and you just have this more robust, permissionless competition for a free banking system. And at the end of the day, as long as the 21 million supply cap is protected, mining sufficiently distributed, that is a future that is materially better than the one that we live in.
Yeah.
The world that we live in
today. The free
banking
system, it's wild to read about it. You can kind of see it, some of the hypothetical scenarios that would play out in scenarios like this, they already played out in history when they had free banking, where banks would issue their own currency and it would be backed by their liabilities. And there was somebody was talking about the other day, I can't remember, where they were talking about Tether redeeming USDC as an attack. So Tether was buying up USDC and then redeeming it to Circle, so reducing the outstanding flow of USDC that Circle had, which is how Circle earns money because they invest that in treasuries. And so they were actively buying all the USDC and reducing the AUM of USDC, and so weakening their competitor. And I think it was Nick Carter. He brought up that this attack is actually how free banks used to attack each other, where they would buy up the notes of a competing bank and then go and redeem all of the notes and try and force a run on the bank where their liabilities couldn't meet their outstanding deposits.
Is that Tether USD a hypothetical, or is that why?
No,
it's USDC has been free in free
it's
fall.
down 21 billion. Tether's up 22.
Doing a redeem attack against USDC.
Paolo, wow.
Yeah, it's the Scottish free banking era. This is where all these stories come from.
Nick wrote a whole article on this.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But a free banking structure on top of Bitcoin sounds pretty cool. The risk is of some kind of rug or rehypothecating what they have on there if somebody doesn't have.
You could have visibility, right? Theoretically, like if we have a uptick in sort of sophistication and competency of users, they would require one of those entities to have proof of reserves and be a little bit more transparent of what they have.
And proof of liabilities.
Sure.
Yeah. And then
which is hard to prove.
Yeah.
The multi-institution model, which you described, I think that also creates a unique social incentive model where if each individual institution within a multi-sig quorum has their own reputation and their own business line, you can make the argument that the likelihood of cooperation with somebody who wants to rug people leveraging that multi-institution quorum is decreased significantly because the other institution in that quorum has their own reputation, their own business lines, and they don't want to ruin their reputation by collaborating with somebody else in the quorum to rug all their users.
Because it would take multiple individuals within multiple different institutions. It's like an unlikely attack.
To agree, yeah. We're going to rug all of our users.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
And if those users are miners too, then they're rugging themselves in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The sunk capex of mining, I think, is a really powerful incentive. And I think it's where Ethereum really made a mistake, was by allowing the security capital of your network to be not only liquid, meaning unstake and sell, which it was disabled for a while. I'm not sure if it's enabled now, but you can unstake your security capital and sell it in 2 seconds. And then they create this liquid staking derivative, which is like a WMD, a weapon of mass destruction for security collateral, where you can go and say, I'm going to secure the network with my ETH, and then I'm going to get a token back that is the same value as my security capital. You can go use that to go short Ethereum. Then you're staking, you're securing the network. You also have no economic risk if the price of Ethereum goes down because you're shorted and there's no collateral mismatch on the short. The illiquidity of security collateral, the transformers, the containers, the ASICs themselves, the PDUs, the network equipment, all of that stuff that goes into the ground and can't go anywhere and is purpose-built for Bitcoin mining, that's what makes the security incentive so strong, is that it's illiquid. And Ethereum, they made it liquid and effectively destroyed their security incentive. In Bitcoin, it's so illiquid that you could build other forms of validation on top of it. Like that would be the layer 2 hypothesis, would be this illiquid security collateral can be trusted to perform other forms of settlement.
And if you had this free banking system on top, which was lots of, hopefully hundreds, thousands of different solutions, that would be your settlement. They'll be settling every day between each other. That would be your fees.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one way to think about it, is that the institutions that have the most sunk capex illiquid security collateral into Bitcoin could potentially win the market of who is the most trusted party to move individuals off of a fully sovereign Bitcoin experience, where, in Lightning, like you say, you're not a sovereign individual. If you're not on the layer 1, you've got to move back to the layer 1. Somebody's going to win the battle for user trust there. It will probably be whoever offers the best monetary utility. So fastest settlement and lowest cost. But however,
like an ETF.
Jamie, I do like this idea of pools emerging as the banking institutions of the future. Because we've talked about this quite a bit, but it's always intuitively made sense to me, particularly when we're in this transitionary period, that Bitcoin exchanges need exposure to mining via forward contract or something if they want to be able to provide liquidity to their end users, essentially just have access to Bitcoin to broker a trade at some point in the future. And I don't know if that exact trajectory of how mining and sort of the financial product aspect of Bitcoin interacting with end users materializes, but that something intuitively in my mind says there has to be this connection between the mining world and like the financial product world on a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah, I still haven't really fully conceptualized it, but it just seems like that should be a ticket that's in the race. It's like, okay, if we're going to, like you say, Peter, if we're moving individuals off of self-sovereignty on the layer 1, who are they going to go to on the layer 2? And hash rate and pools as banks, as trusted parties, where you're already trusting them to a certain extent for fast confirmations to settle transactions. So you sort of extend that trust and you put more incentive on good behavior from them. I think there's something there for sure.
Yeah. Look, I think about it a lot because I keep hearing people say, like, your key's not your Bitcoin, be self-sovereign. I keep thinking, well, most people are not going to be able to be. So, like, why aren't we talking about that?